Hi and welcome back to Chop's Garage, the real life car trading channel. If you're new to the channel, why? No, if you're new to the channel, this channel is all about just me trading cheap cars. We do stuff between sort of £2,000 and I'd say £10,000 as a max. Now in that game, especially when you're buying cars from auction, because you cannot buy enough volume from private sellers to do this level of stock. When you want to do cars of that value, you have to go to auctions and buy them. So when you're buying cars of that sort of age, so we're talking 10 years old, 100,000 miles sometimes, when you're buying stuff of that age from auction, they come with problems. And normally they're problems that lots of people have had a go at fixing and can't, and decided this car doesn't merit continuing any further with. And a lot of time when you're doing that, you get the old 3 rules. You get 3 problems in a row. And we bought a bunch of cars from auction recently, and we had 3 in a row that all needed something doing to them, something that I thought was going to be a serious issue. So we'll go through them, and some of you guys from the previous videos really helped out. We'll start off from let's go with the least severe and go to the most severe. So starting out with this little Kia Venga, we got it all ready to go, all MOT'd. All we needed for its MOT was 2 track rod ends. We thought, result, drove it down the road, ABS light came on. And with these, the ABS light as a general rule is the whole wheel bearing on the back, which is about 80 quid, and it's a pain in the bum to press it out and refit it again and then reset. It's just when the car's already past its MOT without needing something, and a car that's only going to be sort of sub £4,000, those kind of costs, they can all add up. So we were very frustrated with that. We thought it was one of the rare occasions where we're going to get a car where we didn't have to put a lot of money into it, and now we've got to do the wheel bearing. I showed you guys on the Top Don, that the Top Don diagnosis machine, that it was reading a wheel speed from the rear wheel, I think it was this one, of like 200 kilometers per hour when the car was sitting. So it indicated there was a problem with that hub. Now, some of you guys said in the comments, James, the more experienced mechanical type, said, James, if it's doing that, it's unlikely to be the wheel bearing. It's more likely to be the wiring to the wheel bearing. So based on your tip, we got it up in the air, we unplugged it, we cleaned it all out, sprayed some contact cleaner, put it back together again, and bang, no light anymore. Took it for a test drive, we've taken it for 3 test drives now, and the light's not come back on again. So we just must have got water in the connection or dirt in the connection. Perhaps when we jet washed it after the MOT, we upset something. So result there, many thanks to those that gave us that tip. So that is now fully MOT'd, advisory free, and it did end up only being a track rod ends we need to do. So result. Second one was the Honda Jazz we got, and we thought we got a nice Honda Jazz. Again, it's a cheap car, it's a sub £3,000 car, this. And if we had any major issues with this, we were going to have problems. Now, we haven't actually had it MOT'd yet, so there is still room for I'm jinxing myself. But the issue with it was the rear windows weren't working, were they? Neither rear window was working, and I thought, this won't be a simple fix. Someone's dumped this at auction because there's some wiring issue that no one can track down. And wiring can be one of the most expensive things, because it's hours and hours of tracing where you might have a break, especially if a rodent's got in there or something. So the rear windows work. And like you said, James, have you got the rear window unlock switch on? And I did have it. I showed in the last video that I did have the rear locking one correctly pressed. Sorry, have we got rain on the screen a sec? I think it's on my side of the camera. It's going a bit grainy though, isn't it? Anyway, so I thought, right, so Pete, we're going to have the door cards off. We're going to have to put power to each of the motors, find out what's going on. But you guys, again, in the comments, someone said, James, very common with these Hondas is that because that button is not used very regularly, the car doesn't recognise that it's pressed down, and you end up with rear windows that don't want to open. Get it off, give it a clean, spray some contact in there, clean the buttons, work them back and forth, and you might find it comes back into life. And it has. We now have I got the keys in there? Now have working rear windows. Just to say my word for it. Oh, no, they are. Yeah. We now have working rear windows on this Honda. And the good news is, because the Honda's so nice elsewhere, and we've given it a clean, doesn't need any paint. Obviously, like I say, we do have to get an MOT, but we have been underneath and it does look pretty solid. So hopefully the MOT just gauged and so forth. But yeah, we now have rear working windows just for the sake of a clean up. So good news on that front. So 2 out of 3. The third one, I haven't shown this on camera yet, was this Qashqai. So we got this Qashqai in, 1.5 DCI, which is the Renault engine, which we love. Pete and I both love that engine here. And I thought I was getting a good deal on it because it had some flaking paint on the bonnet, which for me is the kind of thing I can do here. I can blend up on this line here and blend on this line down here, or just lacquer this whole section of the panel probably after doing it. I thought that's an easy fix. Even if I have to get the whole bonnet done, I'll be all right. But it does seem to stop. I have got my nail under and it does, oh no, tell a lie, I can get some more off there, so we'll have to sand this whole bit back probably. But anyway, I thought that's the reason I got it cheap, because you cannot get cars at a good price at auction at the moment. What you find is that if a car needs nothing doing to it, it pretty much goes for near retail money at the moment. People are so desperate for stock. So there's no deals really to be had. There is a slight mismatch in colour back here as well. But I thought other than that, you know, it's 2014. The paint doesn't need to be perfect on 2014. I forget what the mileage is on it. Is it going to tell us the keys close enough? It's a nice spec one with cruise control, pan roof, which everybody likes the pan roofs on these. It's got the 360 camera on it, so you can see the camera angle. And I think the mileage was, I want to say about 80, so I don't think the mileage was outrageous. What's the service history like? I can't remember now. I will get to the point of what the other concern was. 25, 24, 22, 23. What's that? Is there 2 at 15 or something? So did I see something for a cam belt on this somewhere? I might have done. I'll double check. But anyway, it seemed a nice car. I thought it was just the bonnet. But when it turned up, we had horrible noise from the engine bay. And to be honest, we jumped straight on it to the point where I didn't actually even get the camera out to record it. It was not good. So we just like, do we need to get this car straight back into auction again? Put it on the ramp to have a listen. And what we were hearing was like a really quite loud bearing-y noise. But the concern was when we put the clutch in and out, the noise went away. Now, normally that would mean that your release bearing was bad on your gearbox, or your output shaft on your gearbox was bad. So you'd need to either way get the gearbox out of the car. And on this, it's got a full subframe, so the full subframe has to be dropped to get the gearbox out. So a lot of labour. I don't know how much a replacement box would have been. We'd have done a full clutch kit, obviously, if we'd done the bearing on it. So we were like, oh, not such a result, because we didn't score that much of a bargain on it, that would have been financially viable. But our concern was that we couldn't really hear it on the gearbox side of things. And let me pop the bonnet. Yeah, normally if it was the gearbox end of things, you'd be able to hear it on the gearbox end of things. You'd be able to hear the chattering within the box itself, either for the release bearing or for the output shaft. But we weren't hearing it, we were hearing it on this side, which was worrying. And we're thinking, what could possibly be affected from dipping our foot on and off the clutch on the auxiliary side of things? So it was, oh, is this a one? I can't remember if this is a 1.6 or 1.5 actually. I'm pretty sure it's a 1.5. Anyway, so down here you've got all your auxiliary belt, you've got your alternator, your air conditioning, all that kind of stuff. I said to Pete, the only way we can know for sure is let's get it on the ramp, let's get the auxiliary belt off, disconnect it so it's not driving on it, and see if the noise goes away. And it did. The noise went away. We had a little play with things and found that on the alternator on these, they have a bearing, a bit like the Freelander we did the other day. They have a bearing on the end of the alternator, so if the bearing goes, you don't have to replace the whole alternator. You can just replace the bearing on the end that has the ribs in it for the belt to run across. Someone will put a better description of that down in the comments down below, I'm sure. But we replaced that. It was really, really stiff. It wasn't free moving. Put a new one on, which I forget, it cost us about 40 or 50 quid, I think. Put a new one on, the noise has gone away completely. We're back to just a standard DCI noise. We lucked out there big time. Our concern was that we thought perhaps the reason we had a noise coming when we dipped our foot in and off the clutch, our worst case scenario, that was something was going on with the crank at the bottom, that we had some movement back and forth, some float or something, some really bad float that would mean we'd need to replace an engine. one of the reasons I buy these, even if they do say sometimes, this one wasn't actually noted as having a noisy engine bay, but sometimes if I buy them with a noisy engine bay from auction, it's because I know the 1.5 DCI is a really tough engine, even the 1.6 as well, a really tough engine. You don't normally have problems with them. So if there is a noise, it's likely to be something within the auxiliary side of things, not the engine, and not the actual engine itself. So yes, so as you can tell, a bit pleased to find that it wasn't that serious, because it always is a gamble. Like I say, most cars in auction have been part exchanges at car dealerships, and most people part exchange the car when it gets to a point where they're worried they're going to have to spend too much money on it. Very few do it just because they fancy a new car, unless you're talking looking at the stuff sort of 3 to 5 or 6 years old. The older stuff tends to be because they've just been told they're about to get a big bill and they don't want to spend any more money. So it is always a risk, and there are ways of limiting it by sticking to engines that you know as a general rule don't tend to have problems, and sticking to the cars that have detailed reports on them, and you can get the assured reports where actually if there is a problem you can return the vehicle. None of these did have assured reports because they're too old. You have to do the slightly newer stuff to get the assured reports and the lower mileage stuff. But like I say, as a general rule, we find the 1.5 DCI engine, we got it in the Kadjar over there, pretty tough. So yeah, on this occasion, just very pleased that we managed to resolve all 3 issues relatively simply. Like I said, this still needs an MOT, and that still needs an MOT, so there could be some cost involved there, but that'll just be standard MOT things, tyres, discs, pads, all the kind of things we can do here. What we can't afford to be doing is any big mechanical or electrical repairs. Now, as you can see, it's looking empty in here because the Subaru's gone out today to the customer. The ASX went out, the Dacia Duster went out, the Mini's going out tomorrow. The Astra went out. All the customers picked those up. So it's empty in here. I've freed up the space in here so I can get some of the paint done like on this one. And there's some other stuff. Our Ford Fiesta's sold. We're doing a little bit of paint on that, so I'm going to bring that back in here and do that. So I'm obviously still continuing to buy to try and fill the gaps. And something I bought recently is another engine we tend to find to be very reliable, and a brand we find very reliable. A Hyundai i40. I bought this off another trader locally who said it was just a bit rough for him, and it is a little bit rough. I'm not entirely sure what to do. I am thinking, do we spend the time doing all the paint, or do we just clean it up, get it MOT'd, and just sell it off cheaply? Because there is a market for those types of cars. If you're, you know, some people just aren't that bothered about the cosmetics. So it's an i40 estate, blue drive. I think that's the 1.6. A bit of scraping there, a bit needs doing on the bumper there. We've got scraping down here on the sill. Luckily it's not actually very dented. Is that plastic? That might be plastic anyway. Yeah, I think that's plastic, so that's probably why. Pretty sure it is, yeah. So there's a bit there. The mirror cap needs painting. What else is there? I think there's a bit more paint around this side as well somewhere, I believe. Yeah, a bit around the rear arch there. It's a bit peeling there, and a little bit more down the sill, and a bit on the door there. So quite a few paint bits to do. Could make just quite a good workhorse for someone, I guess, if we just made sure it's mechanically sound and left it at that. I forget what the miles are. I don't think they're outrageous. Needs a good old clean inside. All round electric windows, electric mirrors. Faint smell of smoke. I've had a hell of a lot worse. 6-speed manual box. Let's see, even the gear knob could really do with replacing. 89,000 miles, so the miles isn't outrageous for them. Totally cold start. Should we give it a totally cold start? I think I have done this before and I was okay. I was happy with it. Yeah, look at that on the button. No dual mass flywheel rattle. No hesitation, no smoke at the back. You're looking for like seeing if the injectors are leaking down while the car's sitting. None of that. It started absolutely on the button. Oh, left it in gear. Have to do. Yeah, so that's, I mean, let's say engine-wise, it seems pretty good. And it always sold well for me, so it might be worth spending the time doing the paint. We did get it quite cheap, or a fair price, for how much damage it's got. Yeah, there's a little bit more paint on the back of the bumper there as well. Some of these things might just be worth touching in. Those ones I'd probably just touch in, but then do some spray work on the other areas like the door and the bumper. The only trouble with paint at the moment is it's just getting it all done myself. It's a bit challenging time-wise, but it's too expensive to pay other people. To put it in perspective, I got a door done the other day that needed blending either side. That was £550. for a door to be blended either side. A bumper, £250. So it's, you know, on the value of cars I sell, is a very substantial part of margin if you start doing paint. Now you know I like my little cheap part exchanges. This is I can't help but like this little car here. We took this in part exchange against the Astra. 53 plate Aguila, is it Aguila? With 55,000 miles on. I think it was bought brand new by the mother-in-law, then handed down to the son-in-law, who then drove it around as his basically just sort of workhorse car. Yeah, so only 55,000 miles. I've got 2 files of history on this. 2 files. And it seems to run and drive okay. There is an engine light on it, which I imagine is going to be emissions. I'd put money on it being an oxygen sensor. It is actually really clean inside. It's got some dog hair there. Like I said, I think he used it for transporting his dogs about, because he had a brand new car as well. So it was a little workhorse. Probably, I think it's coming up needing an MOT as well. What I do with it? No idea. I can't retail. That's too old, isn't it? Too old to retail. Probably one of my old Facebook things where I'd just list it and say it's a part exchange and just be honest about any issues we've found with it, and just make people understand they're buying it as is. We probably have to stick a new MOT on it for that. That's where the danger comes in, where you could end up throwing a load of cash at it. But I wouldn't have thought so. It seems pretty okay. Bodywork's pretty good as well. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely doom blue. It's as flat a blue as you can get. No metallic in that at all. It's just a little box on wheels, isn't it? But I'm sure there's someone out there with a bit of a limited budget who would really value having some of that for the same sort of reason. Probably just so they have a little business, maybe throw stuff in the back or throw the dogs in the back. Yeah, I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with that yet. Perhaps it's another project raffle car. Hey, like the Audi, if you don't know, we've got that running at the moment at 50p a ticket for a good running, driving Audi A2 1.4 petrol that I've had parked here for ages because it crunches in 4th to 5th or 3rd to 4th, and I've had it sat here, meaning to do something with it, never did. And you guys said, look, some of these cars, rather than trade them out, why not offer them out as a raffle? So we started that. The raffle's going on at the moment, ends the end of the month. It's only 50p a ticket if you fancy a little Audi A2. I say it's totally drivable as it is, or you could try and get it fixed. We've got a wing on the way for the Fabia over here. I'm using that same colour. If you remember before, I got a bonnet for a Golf from eBay and they paint them to order, and we were so impressed with the finish on that and the colour match that we're going to give it another go with this, and we've ordered up a wing for it, because once the wing's on I can do the repair on the bumper easily enough, and then we'll have a nice car, because it's a nice little car, that little diesel one, isn't it? Got a few other ones. I've got the car from my Motor Millie, my Honda Civic, that was got a suspected head gasket, but we still went on and drove it hundreds of miles afterwards, didn't we? I don't know what I'm going to do with that. If anybody wants that, get in touch. Whatever anybody gives me for it will just go straight to a charity. So it is what it is though, guys. I can't be answering a million questions on it and arranging loads of faffing around. If it's basically a case of just come and get it. It runs, it drives, it's currently MOT'd, I believe. Double check. And I drove it after I took the thermostat housing out and removed the aircon rad so we got more air to the radiator. It took us hundreds and hundreds of miles without overheating afterwards. So do what you wish with it, really. I've still got the grill in the car as well. If you didn't see that video, it took us all the way to the Nürburgring, around the Nürburgring and back. It's actually still full of all our snacks. I need to clean all that out, don't I? And an unopened bottle of candy up. Is that still safe to drink, do you think? No, it's a dead one. So yeah, and yeah, we've got a couple other ones kicking around here that I need to get off to auction as well. We've got, I'm not going to do anything with that. It's not even worth starting on that. It's got a noisy engine bay. I think it's auxiliary again rather than internals of the engine, but it's not worth doing it with it. And a little little Toyota Yaris, which I've plugged it in and it's got an engine code and it looks like it's for a slightly stretched timing chain, but it actually runs and drives perfectly well as it is. So again, one of those things that a car with a fault is not necessarily a faulty car. It can still do its daily duties, can't it? But we need to have a clear out of those things. Probably same thing with this C4 Picasso, which actually I should probably retail because we did put a brand new clutch in that, didn't we? And then we put a brand new MOT in it. It's got new tyres on it. It's 1.6 HDI and it now runs and drives really nicely. Again, it's just another one I haven't got around to doing a bit of paint on. It needs paint there on the rear quarter and down there on the bumper. And I probably should pull that in before anything else, really. The Golf we took in with 160,000 miles on it. Lent out as a loan car. and the lady said it was losing coolant. But because we're not perfect, we have found that we didn't fully tighten the pump that we put on the rear that preheats the cooling inside the car, preheats the heaters. It runs from the coolant. We didn't have it nipped up properly. It was losing a bit of coolant through that. But luckily the lady was monitoring it, because she's had issues with her gasket before. She monitored it and she kept topping it up, so she didn't cook it like some people would have done. As you can see, my biggest challenge at the moment is the fact it's peeing down with rain constantly, and I can't photograph cars. And I don't want to photograph cars in the wet, because all we do is get a blooming message going, have you got any pictures of it dry?